A change of power in America. Joe Biden, Pennsylvania-born and Delaware-forged, becomes the 46th president of the United States.
And right by Biden's side will be Kamala Harris as his vice president. An historic moment for women and people of color. For the first time, hundreds of millions of Americans will see themselves represented in one of the highest offices in the world.
This is a special edition of the lineup for Wednesday, January 20th, 2021.
The lineup is brought to you by TD Bank, America's most convenient bank.
Hey everybody, I'm NBC10's Keith Jones.
And I'm Erin Coleman. A lot going on today. A big day. We're going to be looking at today's festivities under the shroud of unrest stoked by the outgoing president and the ongoing coronavirus pandemic.
And also looking ahead to Biden and Harris's plans in the coming days. Let's get you up to speed. America woke up on this inauguration day to see the list of President Trump's final pardons that the White House released overnight. Most notable, his former chief strategist, Steve Bannon. Bannon was in charge of the final months of Trump's 2016 presidential campaign. He was indicted for duping thousands of investors who thought their donations were going to help build a wall along the southern border. Instead, prosecutors say the money was used for personal expenses. Some other big names getting pardons include rappers Lil Wayne and Kodak Black and Detroit Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick. The president himself and his family were not on that clemency list that includes nearly 150 people.
And there's some troubling news from the Pentagon to tell you about. A dozen National Guard members were removed from the inauguration security team. 10 of them were flagged in FBI background checks for various issues, ranging from some minor criminal offenses to more serious concerns. 2 more soldiers identified for what are described as inappropriate texts and messages. But Inauguration Day started off quiet in the nation's capital, where 25,000 troops are standing guard to help ensure a peaceful transition of power. We have NBC10 team coverage on all angles of the inauguration, including the transfer of power to President-elect Joe Biden, his challenges ahead, and the pride in Delaware as one of their own becomes the most powerful man in the world. We begin with NBC10's Randy Gyllenhaal. He is outside Wilmington.
The inauguration capping a political career that began right here in Delaware. In fact, this month's issue of Delaware Today reads, the first state's first president, Joe Biden, sworn into office today. And here in his hometown community of Greenville, just outside Wilmington, a sense of pride that one of their Delaware neighbors will now lead the nation.
It's very nice to see him come in here and shop. His wife, Jill, comes in here a lot.
Yeah, Jansen's Market, an exciting time at the president's grocery store. They even made a Joe Biden sandwich. It's on sourdough with maple turkey and arugula. Biden has often dropped by this market. He lives not far from here. And for so long, Joe Biden has just been at the center of the first state's history. Local politics, 36 years as senator, VP, and now president. Neighbors here hoping Biden brings Delaware values to the White House.
Well, I think civility is always a Delaware value, and I think he's talked about the first state values, and I think that's something that hopefully he'll bring, and hopefully they'll be able to make agreements across the aisle and reach bipartisan compromise, because I think most Americans are in the middle.
In that speech yesterday, as Biden left his hometown of Wilmington, he got emotional about his adopted home state, saying that when he does die at some point, Delaware will be written on his heart. Outside Wilmington in Greenville, I'm Randy Gyllenhaal, NBC 10 News.
The pandemic has forced the inauguration fanfare to be dramatically reduced, but many of the same traditions will take place, just on a smaller scale.
Yeah, here's a timeline of what's happening right now. President-elect Biden will be sworn in on the Capitol steps at noon. Then he'll give his inaugural address. At 2:30, he'll head to Arlington National Cemetery for a wreath laying. At around 2:50, he'll be escorted to the White House by every branch of the military. And at 3:15, there'll be a virtual parade. He'll then go to the Oval Office at 5:15. That's when he's expected to issue 15 executive orders, many of which overturn policies set by President Trump. Biden's day will end with a star-studded special celebrating America in prime time, starting at 8:30, which you can watch live on NBC10 and on the NBC10 app.
And speaking of those executive orders, here's a few of the big ones. A mask requirement at all federal buildings and property and by all federal workers. Rejoining the World Health Organization. Rejoining the Paris Climate Accord. Ending the ban on Muslim travelers. Ending construction on the border wall. And preserving DACA. Again, just a few of those. Those orders are all part of Biden's pledge for a new path for the nation after Donald Trump's 4 years in office.
And it starts by confronting a pandemic and an economic crisis, not to mention. NBC10's Pamela Osborne has more on the unique challenges he'll face.
Today will be historic in so many ways. When President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris are sworn in, it will be before a divided nation, figuratively speaking. There will be no crowds because of COVID and, more recently, security concerns. That visual speaking to the challenges that are awaiting Mr. Biden once he's sworn into office. There's the pandemic, the economic crisis that followed, deep political divisions, and who could forget the storming of the U.S. Capitol. Some have said the nation has never been so divided with an incoming president since Abraham Lincoln was inaugurated back in 1861, when the nation was on the verge of a civil war. The first thing Biden must do is rebuild trust with the American people. Penn political science professor Roger Smith says the Republicans have a part to play as well.
There is no way that any party can succeed if lots of people in the country fundamentally believe that the system is rigged and unjust. They're going to have to start telling the truth, which is that our election systems have some flaws that we need to fix, but they are not rigged.
As for Mr. Biden, Smith believes he should continue to do what he has been doing, that is, focus on his initiatives, while the Senate handles the fate of the outgoing president, Donald Trump. In the newsroom, Pamela Osborne, NBC 10 News.
Pam, thanks. Immigration reform will be at the top of the agenda for Biden as he takes office. His plan includes an 8-year pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants, an expansion of refugee admissions, and using new technology to patrol the border.
And getting all those things done within his first 100 days in office is being closely watched by people in our area. NBC 10's Miguel Martinez-Valle has more on why this legislation could be life-changing for them.
President-elect Biden's expected to hit the ground running after swearing in, taking immediate action, introducing a sweeping immigration reform bill, one that could provide immediate permanent residence to DACA recipients and TPS holders, and provide an 8-year pathway to citizenship for around 11 million people who have been living in the U.S. already. Immigration experts also expect Biden will issue actions enacting an 100-day pause in mass deportations, as well as work on reversing some of the Trump administration's most controversial policies, like the Muslim and African bans and public charge, as well as efforting the reunification of families separated at the border during the Trump administration. So there's a lot immigration activists are watching out for. They're hoping the Biden administration delivers. I'm Miguel Martinez-Valle, NBC 10 News.
And President-elect Biden is surrounding himself with people who truly represent the diversity of America. Half the people nominated are people of color.
If confirmed, it would be a cabinet full of firsts, too, including the first black Secretary of Defense, the first Latinos to lead the Department of Health and Human Services and the Department of Homeland Security, and the first cabinet secretary who publicly identifies as gay. Now, the pandemic clearly will be a top priority for President-elect Biden as well.
Yeah, yesterday he led the country in the first national memorial to the victims of coronavirus.
But now I see.
Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris took time to remember those who are not here to witness the future. 400 lights along the reflecting pool represent the more than 400,000 people who've died from COVID-19 in the U.S. in the last year. Philadelphia also honored the lives lost. Landmarks and buildings across the city were lit up in amber and orange last night. You could see the skyline, sports stadiums, and Ben Franklin Bridge all glowing in memory of the pandemic's victims. The virus remarkably has claimed more than 2,700 lives in the city. So sad.
Yeah.
And as the president's time in office ticks down, he'll be saying farewell to the nation.
The White House released a pre-recorded address last night. Here's just part of it.
I took on the tough battles, the hardest fights, the most difficult choices, because that's what you elected me to do. This week, we inaugurate a new administration and pray for its success in keeping America safe and prosperous.
Trump will not attend the inauguration, but he is having a red carpet send-off for himself this morning.
It is my greatest honor and privilege to have been your president. I will always fight for you. I will be watching, I will be listening, and I will tell you that The future of this country has never been better. I wish the new administration great luck and great success. I think they'll have great success. So just a goodbye. We love you. We will be back in some form.
President Trump then take a final ride on Air Force One to Florida.
With all the inauguration events happening today, there will be plenty of new updates and live events right here on the NBC10 app. Look for that special inauguration section you see there for the latest stories from D.C. and here in Biden's hometown. All right, coming up, local flair to the presidential fanfare. We'll show you how students from Biden's home state get to have a musical role in history.
Yeah, but first we need to pay some bills. We'll be right back.
Expected is bankers waiting for your call.
$4.59. Close enough.
Unexpected is your banker working for you when times are tough to help your local taco shop stay open. And then showing up to order too many tacos from your business.
Thank you so much for everything. Of course, my pleasure.
She's loved those tacos since day one.
Can I get 2 dozen veggie tacos?
Yep, that should be enough for the weekend. Helping the smallest businesses in our communities. TD Bank, unexpectedly human.
And we are back now with a story that has a lot of people talking. Remember the name Joe Exotic, the Tiger King, snubbed by President Trump now.
The imprisoned star of the Netflix show Tiger King asked for a pardon, but his name isn't on the list that came out overnight. Joseph Maldonado Passage is in prison for trying to arrange the murder of a rival. And get this, Passage and his legal team, they were so sure that he would be pardoned. They had a stretch limo, that one right there, on standby, waiting to come get him. Along with the limo, they had stylists on standby for hair and makeup. But for now, the Tiger King stays caged up. All right, state of Delaware set to shine during the traditional parade to the White House during today's inauguration festivities.
Yeah, the drumline from the University of Delaware will help escort the new president. Take a look. Mr. Biden graduated from the University of Delaware. The band director first heard about the possibility of playing the inauguration around Christmas. Then came that formal invitation.
The students all say after a rehearsal in D.C. earlier this week, they feel safe, they feel protected, and they're excited to be a part of history. What a great experience for them, albeit different. We know things are going to be different this time around, but they're still going to be there and still representing Delaware.
That makes it even more historic, though, in a lot of ways, right? This is the first and only time it'll ever be virtual, hopefully. You know, you think about it that way. They'll be showcased a lot more. They'll be the only thing on screen.
Yep.
Very cool for this band.
And they're pretty darn good, too.
Yes.
We've kind of been bopping around to them most of the morning.
Huge honor.
Yeah. All right, that does it for today's special edition of The Lineup. Remember, we will have live coverage and updates about the inauguration of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris all day right here on the NBC10 app. Look for that inauguration section.
For Aaron Coleman, I'm Keith Jones. Also, we want to mention NBC10's broadcast channel. You're going to find live special reports there starting at 10 a.m. And you can catch us weekday mornings from 4 to 7 a.m. Thanks for joining us.
See ya.